My name is Mal Fleming. I am here to assist in your passage. Can you remember your name and the circumstances of your death?
Je m'appelle... Je suis désolé. Tu parles français?
Un petit peu, mais je ne suis pas... Sorry,
It's all right. I speak English. Your sigh is very French, though.
Thank you.
Something that can't be taught.
My mother spoke it fluently. She tried to teach me, but I have no faculty for languages.
Well, then I apologize that you got stuck with one of the worst. Such a harsh tongue.
It's all right. I'm used to it. So, your name?
Ah, of course. My name is Jean-Christine Michael Marc Pimontet Daniel de Roche Désactivé. The Comte de Calais, a general of the Continental Army, member of the Estates General of 1789, and petit commander of the National Guard of France. Most people call me Calais, even though that is my title, not my name.
What would you like me to call you?
Calais is fine. I stand against the winds of history, you know.
Calais it is. And do you remember the circumstances of your death?
Yes, of course. Pneumonia, but really old age during my American retirement. But, and I apologize if this sounds arrogant, the other residents say you are a historian, no? Do you not know my biography?
No, my concentration was mid to late 19th century, economic class in the Gilded Age, but yes, I'm aware of you. I find it best not to presume.
Ah, of course. And you have to break the ice somehow, no?
Exactly.
But there's a statue and a plaque, so one would hope, well... What do you think of this statue, if I can ask?
Oh, what do you think of the statue? It is yours, after all.
No. You are hoping that I will say what I feel about it, and then you can give your answer based on that. No. What do you think about it?
It's a fairly standard mid-19th century statue. It doesn't look all that much like you, based on how you look right now. It's a bit... I don't have much of a feeling one way or another.
Ah, and that's the problem. It's boring, pedestrian. Why make a statue if you're not going to put some life into it? Once again, I do not mean to be arrogant, but I did a fair amount of things in my life. The statue makes me look like I spent my time gardening, no?
Regardless of the quality of the statue, there is a statue of you. Not many other permanent residents can say that.
Yes, I can't complain. You couldn't ask them to replace it, could you? If only my expression, so it does not look like I'm trying to dislodge a piece of food stuck in my teeth.
I don't think that would be possible. I apologize. Newbie already doesn't like acknowledging the permanent residents. None of the other staff do. The ones that even know about, well, I do not think it would be possible. Suffice it to say.
Of course, a minor annoyance, all things considered.
But if this is what was preventing you from passing on, maybe...
No. Like I said, it's a minor annoyance. I'm not so small-minded as to let that stop me from opening the onyx door.
Then is there anything I could do to assist in your passage?
Well, it would be lovely to be buried in the Pantheon, but I am too American for France. They do not love me as this country does. If I can ask, is there any specific reason for me to leave Greybriar? Did anyone
No. It's nothing about you specifically, but...
Then?
It's my job to help the permanent residents move on. I just go through as many as I can, I suppose.
Wouldn't want the Greybriar to be too crowded, no?
I suppose not, but no, there's nothing unique about your case. Not that you didn't live a...
No, I understand. At first I thought, why would the Greybriar want me to leave? Not to be arrogant, but I'm well known. There is a statue, even if the statue is... Sometimes I forget that no one knows I'm still here. Except for you.
And the other spirits?
Of course, but I cannot change how I'm remembered. I suppose.
How do you think you're remembered?
Oh, I know how I'm remembered. Anytime I'm mentioned in a biography, on a plaque, I'm not quite sure what the podcast is, but I know when I'm talked about in one of them. Anytime I'm remembered, I know. Perhaps it is a curse of my vanity or arrogance.
Not that you would want to be arrogant.
Of course not. But I know how I'm remembered.
And how do you feel about that? About your legacy?
How do you think you'll be remembered, Mal Fleming?
I thought you told me I couldn't answer your question with a question. I think that... Are you familiar with Martin Tupper?
Not at all.
He was a poet, active in the middle 19th century, and there's absolutely no reason for you to have heard of him. And not just because you died before he published anything, no one knows him. Not just random people on the street, but people that should be familiar with him. English professors, historians, nobody remembers him. And the thing is, he was incredibly famous, spoken in the same breath as Keats or Tennyson. His books sold millions of copies. He was literally Queen Victoria's favorite poet. Now, nothing. No one remembers him. His works have been out of print for a century. He's forgotten.
Except for you, apparently.
I only know him because I read an article about how he's completely ignored. He's only remembered because he's so completely forgotten.
Was there a reason for this obscurity?
Seems, at least to me, that his poems were very much of their time. They fit the ideas and values of the Victorian era so well that as times changed, when people looked back on them, they were like seeing a picture of yourself at prom with your floral suit dancing to Bleeding Love by Leona Lewis.
I do not understand those references.
Sorry.
But I think I understand what you are saying. Were his poems, was there anything of merit in them?
Oh, God, no. They're awful, absolute pablum, prudish and moralizing, and above all, boring.
So do you feel better knowing that his obscurity is just?
I don't know. If you think about someone like Van Gogh, pretty much the only reason he's as famous as he is because his sister-in-law fought for his work. She advocated for him after he died. His paintings are lovely. It's almost instinctual to say he's overrated because, he's such a fundamental part of the Western canon. But when you stare at one of his paintings in person, you look at the color, the way it almost sort of tricks your eye, sort of transports you. I wonder if there were people like Van Gogh, forgotten because they simply didn't have someone to advocate for them. I think it's, certain that there were.
But you are not an artist, no? You are a historian.
Not anymore.
Ah. Were you forbidden from studying the past? Will they torture you if you pick up a book? Will they chop off your hands or castrate you
Point taken. But I think that from studying history, especially if you look at primary sources, diaries, letters, it's impossible to remove yourself from the context in which you live. You can't really predict how people will judge. You can't really predict what people 100 years from now will be preoccupied by. Yes, I know that our present society will be judged because we aren't doing anything about climate change. And yes, the American healthcare system isn't going to look better in hindsight. But what about the things we can't predict? Is AI going to go full Terminator, Rise of the Machines? Sorry, I apologize. Not a good reference.
No, Terminator, I've heard of that.
Sorry, excuse me?
There's a comedian, Taylor. I think they believe it's humorous to describe the plot of movies and current things to older spirits. They will talk and talk about the Prussian strongman. There was a movie with a ghost and pottery that they keep always bringing up. I suppose it is interesting to hear about modern culture, but they just seem sad. Have you talked to them?
Not yet.
You'll get around to them, I'm sure. But, to your point, I think that I believe that when you are living in a period of history, you know what will define it, I suppose, to the future generations. Perhaps that is why I fought in 2 revolutions. To act in history rather than merely being acted upon, or something like that. To be what is the phrase? Great man of history.
That is the phrase.
Another spirit explained it to me decades and decades ago. In life, a historian. In death, someone who would simply not stop talking. But I do not know if there are great men of history, just people who decided to do something.
There is a statue of you.
Once again, it is not a very good statue.
So, to my question, how do you feel about your legacy?
No. I want to ask you. You have thought about history. You have thought about legacy. Why do you not act in history? Try to set the world on fire with your convictions. When I was young, that was the only thing I could think about.
To be fair, times have changed. There isn't a revolution happening at the moment.
Perhaps you could wait a few years or months.
And you were a count, a member of the Second Estate, which made up a minuscule minority of the French population, a man from a wealthy family.
Still, there were a fair number of people like me. Not many decided to set sail for the American Revolution.
I'm saying that it was a bit less difficult for you to change the world.
You could always assassinate someone.
I'll take that under consideration. And I do go to protests when I can.
Just to say, if Louis XVI had died earlier, things would have been very different.
Would they have been better if he was assassinated?
Who can say? But they would have been different. So that is what's preventing you from changing the world? Fear? The fact that you were not born a marquis or a duke?
Do you really want me to assassinate someone?
No, not truly. But do you want to change the world?
I would like the world to be changed, but I enjoy reading my books, living in the attendant manse.
You like it?
I do. It's cozy. The library is lovely. When it rains, I can listen to the thunder while I look out over the cemetery. It's calming.
I did not seek out calm in my life. But I think we are a bit different in that way.
I would agree with that. And I like talking to the permanent residents. It's fascinating, but more than that, it feels worthwhile to help them move on.
And is that enough?
I don't know. Maybe. For now. So, one more time. How do you feel about your legacy?
Are you familiar with Valley Forge?
Of course.
It is a very singular thing to watch men starve to death. I saw it in prison as well, but in Valley Forge, the people were choosing to be there. There was desertion, of course, but people stayed. So many people stayed. They did not die of starvation, most of them. They died of disease and the cold, and afterwards they called it heroism, but there is little heroism to be found in the gaunt face of a dying man as he whispers for his lover, his lungs spewing water and bile so he chokes on his own words. I did not interact all that much with people who were not of my station. A flaw of mine, I know. Their names I do not remember, but I remember their eyes. They looked at me knowing that I could make so many more choices than they could. And Washington was willing to make that sacrifice. He never ate more than his men. He inspired them, he led, but he knew that some of them would die. And he made peace with that. It is blasphemous for me to say, but Washington, he was so similar to Robespierre.
Really?
Not in everything. Washington was a leader. Robespierre had no charisma at all. Robespierre was a great intellect. Washington was, as he would say it himself, a straightforward man. But they were both willing to sacrifice. They had an ability to turn themselves cold when necessary. Or perhaps they were always cold, I'm not sure. Perhaps I would have an even bigger statue if I was cold.
Do you regret that?
I'm not sure. You mentioned that it is difficult sometimes to know how history will look back on your time, but I knew that beyond the revolutions, beyond the pamphlets and call to arms, history would judge us on the evils of bondage and slavery. And we would be judged harshly. And we would deserve it.
You were an abolitionist, though.
Yes, since I was a young man. Once I thought about things, came to understand the horrors, I was an abolitionist, but Washington was like a father to me. Jefferson was a dear friend. They were good men, decent men. Oh, they were always good and decent to me. I thought that if I could find the right words, they would open their eyes, wake up, and they would... I do not think naivety is a bad thing. You have to be naive enough to think that the world can do better in order to make it so, but I was too naive. I believed that people were good. I believed in revolution, in setting a small fire, but not burning the foundations down. I have had 200 years to think about the ideals I fought for. Freedom and equality. I fought for such limited versions of each. I thought they would expand, hoped they would, but...
Yes?
The French Revolution did not seem like a revolution to start. It was very gradual. The reforms, the changes, they started off so small. And I wanted more. More representation, more freedom. Still a king, but the king would be limited. There would be a legislature with votes, and promotion in the army would be based on merit, and we would stop the horrors in Haiti. And the political winds shifted, and the reforms seemed more and more possible, and then, for just a moment, it seemed like everything would go into place. There would be a stable country with just laws. A few weeks of balance, when all of my dreams were... there was a parade. A celebration on the first anniversary of the tennis court oath, when I could almost see the future laid out before me. A future of progress without conflict, slow change, but always for the better. There were fireworks and speeches at the celebration. They made Versailles a palace for everyone. Everyone who wanted to come and drink the wine and the excitement of a new country. And I was the petit commander of the National Guard of France. I was in the middle of it. But do you know what I remember?
What do you remember?
I remember the eyes of a woman, middle-aged, perhaps a shopkeeper or a baker. She had thrust herself through the crowds and stood before me a foot away. There was a speech, I forget who it was, so many speeches in those days, and I had stepped away to relieve myself. And this woman, I'm not quite sure how she had come in front of me. I should have been with my soldiers, but she looked at me and her eyes seemed so wide, too large for her bony face. And then she said, "Is this the great Comte de Calais? You seem so much smaller than in the stories." I stood in silence for a moment, surprised, no, fearful, and I am not a coward. I did not seize up in battle, but this woman, something about her eyes. Before I could say anything, she laughed in my face before I could finish. And she said...
What did she say?
Nothing. That is the thing of it. I would like for her to have said something profound, something about, "You think to give us our rights, our bread, but we will take them. That is what you do not understand, Calais." That would make her importance in my memory make sense. Give it weight. But no, she simply belched and walked away. But something about her eyes. I thought about them until the end of my life and afterwards. I suppose my mind searched for an omen and found one. After the celebration, the wind shifted again and the king tried to escape, and then the king needed to die, and I did not understand the anger. I did not understand how little my dreams of representative legislature or civil service organization meant to a farmer making flour out of acorns. To the sans-culotte in the street who could be thrown in prison on the mere word of someone like me. Someone who had grown up never knowing hunger.
So, You regret not going farther, being more...
No. No, that is not what I'm saying.
Do you regret not taking charge? During that time, it seemed like everything was in balance. The French Revolution may not have been my specialty, but from what I've read, it seems like you could have.
Huh. I would have had to have been a different person to have done that.
Colder.
Exactly. You asked me what I thought about my legacy. I do not know. I do not know.
There is a statue of you.
Yes, but it is not a very good statue.
You're still remembered. There was even a musical. I'm not sure if you...
Do not mention the musical. You need to make sure that all the newer spirits pass through the onyx door quickly, so that they do not go up to me and ask if Thomas Jefferson was like he was in the musical. We did not sing. I apologize.
It's all right. I think a lot of people hate it now. You'll be happy to hear. But if you didn't want to talk to the newer ghosts, you could always pass on yourself. You said that you've had 200 years to think about the ideals you fought for, your legacy.
You are correct.
Are you waiting for your legacy to change?
I suppose I'm waiting for all of my dreams to be realized. For my story to inspire everyone to, I do not know, create a utopia, fight for liberty. I cannot say exactly. And not to be arrogant, but I enjoy hearing about myself. I enjoy not being forgotten.
I wonder if there's a comfort in being forgotten.
Truly?
I don't know how I could deal with history judging my actions. It's difficult for me to change the world, but
Remember, you could always assassinate someone.
I'm not going to do that. I lead a small life, but at least I know that there's not going to be a book written about me.
Or a musical. But you will still be judged. Even if there are not books written about you, the sans-culottes. They killed the king. You are a member of your time, Mal. You must either change it or be judged alongside everyone else who stood by. You do not believe me?
No, I believe you. It's just difficult.
It always is.
I know that you didn't do everything you set out to do. I know that you made mistakes, but you acted upon history in a positive way. And I think that's the most any one of us can ask for.
That and a better statue. Thank you for that, Mal. You know, I feel very old. I've spent 3 of my lifetimes examining what I did on this earth. Perhaps that is too long.
You don't have to leave if you don't want to.
I appreciate you saying that, but it is my time. Think about what I told you, Mal.
Of course.
Now, to be judged by whatever is beyond the onyx door. Wish me luck. Au revoir.
Good luck. And au revoir. Jean-Christine Calais. Passage completed.
You've been listening to Conversations with Ghosts, a Dead Signals production. For complete cast and crew credits, check out our website at conversationswithghosts.com. Dead Signals is an independent operation, and we're supported by our patrons. If you like what you hear and want to support the work we do, go to patreon.com/archive81 to sign up. You'll get a bunch of fun extras, including behind-the-scenes Q&As, music, and access to the first podcast Mark and I ever made together. That's patreon.com/archive81. As always, thanks for listening.